Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Time, Love, and Tenderness, a Baymoor holiday novella by D.A. Young, narrated by Mari. Chapter 1. September. Baymoor, Maryland. Graham Carlton was used to being under pressure. When he worked for the NSA, time was always of the essence. After branching out on his own, Graham continued to apply that same work ethic with his clients and expeditiously provided them with the information they were seeking. They appreciated that about him, and Graham took pride in his abilities to deliver. Today's mission was of the utmost urgency, for he only had a small window to complete it. Make love to his woman, Annabel Gaines, before she left for work. It had been 3 weeks since they'd last been really intimate. Spontaneous quickies didn't fucking count, thanks to her non-stop ripping and running. The semi-permanent ache in his balls was in danger of becoming everlasting if they didn't reconnect, and soon. Linking up was a feat that seemed damn near impossible to accomplish now that autumn had arrived in Baymoor. Doc was a highly respected veterinarian, and the new season, Graham had discovered, was turning out to be one of her busiest times of the year. For the past month, he'd hardly seen his woman. She'd attended 3 conferences in Chicago, Austin, and San Diego, and was now practically a ward of Cinnamon Farms, owned by his brother-in-law, Max Hayes, while they prepped for and welcomed lambs. The 2 breeds of sheep he owned lambed later in the year than any of the other animals, thus making autumn an even more hectic season as the entire farm staff prepped for Baymoor's annual fall festivities that included a small carnival, corn maze, pumpkin patch, apple picking, and hay rides. Last month, a curious Graham had volunteered to assist her, Max, and Tavish McBain, Max's second in command, as they created birthing kits for each pen in the barn. He hadn't really known what to expect. In the movies, livestock had their babies in the field. Graham got his first look at long metal lamb pullers that resembled tongs, along with jacks used for breeched births. He'd also unpacked frozen colostrum and electrolytes and sorted ear tags and bands for identification markers. Next was preparing the pens with clean, dry bedding for the new mothers and their babies and stocking backup bedding because it needed to be changed after every birthing to prevent spreading diseases. It was hard work, and despite being exhausted, Doc was in the midst of it all, in her element, overseeing Operation Maternity Ward, working from dawn to past dusk. For instance, there had been a harrowing birth last night. A ewe's pelvic width had been incomparable with the size of its lamb. To make matters even more difficult, it was the first of 2, leaving its sibling in womb limbo. Annabel, Max, and Tavish had stayed until midnight to oversee each lamb safely through the birthing canal before she'd left. Graham had been waiting on the front porch of the Cashmere Inn to meet her when she'd stumbled from her car in a daze. "Hi, baby." Annabel gave him a tired but happy smile as the predictable sweet rush of heat at his closeness engulfed her. Even in her zombie-like state, she was able to suitably appreciate the tall, dark, and addictive specimen that all 6 foot plus of Graham Carlton was. "Hi, what are you doing up?" Immediately her enthusiasm morphed into concern. "Did something happen? Is Rory okay? What about Edith? I haven't heard from her in a couple of days." "Easy, Doc. Rory is fast asleep. We received a postcard from Edith yesterday, and she's enjoying her tour of Europe. Everything's as it should be." Graham soothed in the deep timbre that always made the butterflies in Annabel's tummy swoon. "Max called and gave me the heads up that you were on your way home." Nerves calmed, she relaxed with a weary grin. "Sorry for spazzing. If nothing's the matter, I repeat, what are you doing up?" Graham's eyebrows slammed together over his narrowed eyes. "Woman, you know damn well I can't sleep without you next to me," he grumbled. Since moving to Baymoor, Graham had scaled back on traveling for work to be with his siblings. He used to take advantage of the perks that having wealthy clients offered, including flying him around the world. With a family of his own now, Graham craved normality, and traveling had become virtually non-existent. He couldn't stand being away from Doc and Rory, the little girl who'd snatched his heart right out of his chest with her dimpled smile, vibrant personality, and silly jokes. Annabelle was instantly contrite. "Ugh, you know I'm the same way, babe. My bad for keeping you up." She reached on her tiptoes and kissed him, relishing the way his full lips managed to be firm yet soft at the same time. The kiss was short-lived when Graham pulled away unexpectedly. His nose was twitching, and his lips were pursed at the rank odor that was emanating directly from the cab of the truck, and more specifically, from his woman. "What exactly am I smelling, Doc?" Annabelle wrinkled her nose and laughed. She was desensitized to many animal odors, which she attributed to her job, and easily forgot that most people weren't. "That, my love, is placenta. Sorry, the goal was to sneak in and get cleaned up without waking you guys. How was Rory tonight? I hate that I wasn't here to tuck her in." "She was missing you, but I read her an extra story, and then a late-night snack was needed. There might have been a karaoke session also. Now she's excited to see the new lambs in person after watching that video you sent me. Come on, let's get you upstairs, Doc." Annabelle pulled a face at him. "How does her finger even get circulation with you wrapped so tightly around it? I wish I'd been here to tuck her in. Thanks, babe." His grin was positively indecent when he silkily suggested, "No thanks needed. And don't stress. Play your cards right, and you can feed and tuck your other baby in real nice and proper-like." Exhaustion be damned, Annabelle's interest was piqued. Hooking her finger through his belt loop, she tugged him into her and licked her lips suggestively. "You're such a perv, and God, do I love it. That's my girl." Ignoring her objections, Graham scooped Annabelle into his arms and carried her back to the private entrance to their place. She leaned into him, and her eyes drifted shut in the elevator. Once upstairs, Graham woke Annabelle and deposited her into the bathroom, then made quick work of helping her undress. He held his breath and tried not to hurl as the stench grew worse with each layer of clothing removed. "You hungry? If you want, I could heat up some leftovers. We had brown butter scallops, sautéed spinach, and Parmesan risotto tonight." That beats the granola bar and beef jerky I scarfed down earlier by a long shot. But no thank you, babe. I'll eat it for breakfast." The culinary wizard in him was beyond offended at her dinner choices. "The hell kind of meal is that? You're a complete savage, woman." Annabelle couldn't stop yawning, and Graham left to take care of her clothes. After that, he popped in on Rory and bit the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing aloud. Baby girl was a wild sleeper. Currently, she was half standing, half leaning on the bed. Graham tucked her back in and placed a kiss on top of her Doc McStuffin's bonnet. The animated doctor was her latest obsession and inspiration, and Rory never went anywhere without representing her. He returned to the bedroom to find a naked Annabelle sprawled across the bed, save her bath towel that barely covered her generous curves. Normally, such an enticing sight would have Graham's libido raging in full effect. Except his baby was currently passed out with her mouth wide open, snoring loud enough to wake the dead 3 counties over. Annabelle's after-shower regimen was already on her nightstand. Clearly she'd been too fatigued to attempt it. "All right, Doc," Graham whispered, reaching for a tub of body butter. "Let's get you squared away." Once he removed the damp towel, he knew the task was easier said than done. Graham swallowed thickly, staring with unabashed pleasure at the magnificent beauty lying before him. He'd never thought that he was cut out for monogamy, at least not until Georgie asked him to help find Annabelle. One glance at her picture, and he was a smitten chump. As her man, he was the sole proprietor of a license to look, touch, and taste Annabelle, and he knew that there would never be a time when those urges were fully satisfied. Graham was like a kid in a candy store whenever her bold curves were displayed. She was a size 16 and rocked her voluptuous shape with a fierceness that legit left him, a grown-ass man, weak in the fucking knees. Her sable flesh gleamed in their moonlit room as Graham massaged the body butter into her silky skin. Valiantly, he tried to ignore the way her ample breasts filled his large palms, or how their nipples, the shape of blackberries and twice as sweetly succulent, pebbled beneath his thumb pads. Sweat broke out on Graham's forehead as his hands lingered on the sensuous dips and valleys of Annabelle's body, and his fingers reverently traced the stretch marks that crisscrossed her stomach and hips. Graham's resolve was further tested when she sleepily whispered his name and sighed accordingly as he gave more attention to the sweet spots that drove her wild. By the time Graham slipped his favorite baby doll nightie of Annabelle's over her pampered body and wrapped her hair, his hands were shaking. Sexual frustration hammered at his body, and Graham knew sleep wouldn't come easy tonight, if at all. With a muffled curse on his lips, he reached for his laptop and the blueprints his older sister Eliza had drawn up with the latest changes for their home. After stealing a Colgate-scented kiss from Doc, Graham left to try and get some work done. She was a deep sleeper. It was an art Graham knew that she'd perfected only with him. He took pride in that achievement, for it equated to her having peace of mind and a deep sense of safety and security. Annabelle had been to purgatory and barely made it out alive in her one previous relationship. Knowing that she trusted him implicitly in every aspect of her life, including with Rory, humbled Graham like nothing else ever would. Annabelle's signature fragrance of amber and warm vanilla seduced his nostrils once more. She didn't make it easier on him either by backing her bottom up until it was nestled invitingly against his groin, inflaming every nerve in his body. Need spiraled through Graham, instantly elevating his usual morning wood status to high alert. He gently pulled her scarf off, allowing her new hairstyle, a bob of asymmetrical curls, to tumble free. His other hand fisted the skimpy seafoam green negligee, lifting it to reveal Graham's favorite addictions underneath as his lips drifted to her neck. Heat simmered in Annabelle's belly and traveled south, flooding her with decadent sensations. A husky moan escaped her lips when his lush beard stimulated her sensitive flesh. The breathy sound made Graham smile victoriously, until her hand reached back, between his thighs, to grip him possessively, and her smooth leg glided over his muscular, hair-roughened one. "You better be awake, Doc," he warned, "because the way you're pushing up on me, I refuse to be held responsible for what will come next." Annabelle smiled at his desire-laden threat. She loved being his Doc. The way Graham said it put a spin of connotations on the nickname, ranging from respectful to sensually erotic to downright naughty. "Well, aren't you a sneaky snuggle fucker, Mr. Carlton?" she purred. Her nails trailed lightly over Graham's sack, and his blood sizzled, wiping the smirk from his face and shifting him into beast mode. He nibbled on Annabelle's neck and rocked his shaft between her bountiful ass cheeks provocatively. Long, broad fingers slid between the wet, puffy folds of her pussy and teased her clit. Primal satisfaction surged through Graham as it pulsed and swelled beneath the pads of his fingers. His other hand palmed her breast and squeezed it roughly, pinching and rubbing the hardened nipple, pressing insistently against the satin of her gown. "Baby, I need you," Annabelle whimpered desperately. Silently, she reveled in Graham's magnetic appeal. With him, she experienced everything, down to a molecular level. His virile heartbeat, the crisp edge of his citrus sandalwood cologne, the spearmint on his breath, and her arousal that heat incited, a musky, honeyed spice floating up between them. Everything about this man had Annabelle wired and primed to do and say whatever he wanted. His rhythm increased, and she gave into it. Head lolling back against his shoulder, she matched his pace. "More, Mr. Carlton. I need so much more." Graham slid 2 fingers into her drenched core, purposely driving her delirious. He bit her earlobe and traced the delicate whorl of her ear with his tongue. "You got me, Doc. Forever and ever," he assured her huskily. Inhibitions lost, Annabelle wordlessly begged for even more, undulating against him, riding his fingers while her own slipped beneath the band of his boxers and tugged until his impressive shaft sprang free. His thumb circled her clit, and Annabelle's toes curled as pleasure spiked in her soles. It twisted its way up her taut body, winding her into a blissful frenzy. "Fuck me, babe," she pleaded. "It's been ages since we last—" "You begging for it?" he growled, leaning over to nip her collarbone. Using his teeth, he dragged the strap of her nightie down. Graham removed his fingers, hooked her leg over his arm, and surged into her pussy from behind, forcing the oxygen from Annabelle's body as he made her back bow. "You know you ain't ever gotta beg for what's yours, Doc." "The thing is, it's so good that I'd grovel for you in 5 different languages if I had to," Annabelle freely admitted. Reaching behind, she hooked her arm behind his neck, turning her head and seeking Graham's mouth as he fondled her breast and flexed deep inside of her. Her arm fell to grab his firm ass, anchoring herself as she threw hers back at him, tightening around him just the way he loved. "Shit, yeah, Doc, give it to me just like that," Graham urged, deepening his strokes and shifting so he was half covering her. "Don't try to fucking run from me either," he advised, biting and sucking on Annabelle's bottom lip. "Run?" she gasped, laughed, moaned. "Sir, did you fall and bump your head? I'm trying to get more of— Oh!" Graham's laugh was diabolically filthy when she released him to clutch at the sheets beneath her for purchase. "You were saying?" He'd roll them over until Annabelle was face down. Grasping her hips, Graham relentlessly gave her what they both craved. He made her feel every thick inch of him in her womb as she panted and clawed at the mattress for support. Sweet Lord, it felt like he was now in her chest. "Hey, guys, is anyone up? I'm hungry." A tiny voice with a light Australian accent loud whispered, interrupting them. Graham yelped, and Annabelle shrieked. Automatically, he withdrew and jerked away from her as if she were radioactive. He yanked his boxers up, while Annabelle swiftly pulled the comforter over her head to right her negligee. Thank God they'd still been under it. Silently, Graham mourned the loss of his erection and sat up. His heart melted when he spied Rory at the foot of the bed, in her purple Batgirl pajamas, and a stethoscope now hanging around her neck, yawning and rubbing her eyes. Despite his racing heart, he managed to affectionately greet her. "Morning, baby girl. Did you sleep well?" Annabelle reappeared and sat up too. Nudging Graham with her shoulder, she teased, "Foiled again, Mr. Carlton." Smoothing her curls into place, she hissed, "Couple of things. 1, we need to wash our hands. 2, I didn't know a big man's voice was even capable of hitting such a high pitch." "Shut it." Swallowing her laughter, Annabelle also greeted Rory. "Good morning, sweetheart." "Morning? I'm still hungry, guys," their daughter reminded them impatiently. Graham reached for his sweats at the foot of the bed as he got out of it. "How about you meet me in your bathroom, and I'll help you brush your teeth. This morning we're going to let Mummy sleep in because she worked late and needs her rest." Rory was already heading toward the door. "Okay. The orange evil pancakes, and bacon, please, Daddy." Annabelle looked to Graham in confusion. "Evil pancakes?" "She means ebbelskivers," he elaborated with a chuckle. "They're Danish pancakes that resemble donut holes, but are light and airy, like a popover. Trust me, you'll love them." We stuffed them with both apples and Nutella in the past couple of weeks. Today I'm going to fill them with orange blossom custard. Sounds fancy. Watching her man throwing down in the kitchen was the 8th wonder of the world. Annabel was sure of it. Graham was indecently sexy as he commanded his Viking range. He was like a well-oiled machine, and as edible as one of his mouth-watering creations, moving confidently around in his domain, upper arm muscles flexing as he worked. Graham never fumbled, could eyeball the right ingredient size from half a teaspoon to a cup, and knew with a sniff when something was cooked to perfection. I bet anything would sound gourmet to the woman who ate beef jerky for dinner. Graham wiggled his eyebrows suggestively when Annabel stuck her tongue out at him. Rory nodded and rubbed her tummy in an exaggerated motion. "Evil pancakes are yummy. Come on, Daddy, let's go." She scampered off until Graham reminded her, "1 second, baby girl. You forgot to share your new joke with Mummy, remember?" "Oh, yeah." Rory bounced over to Annabel's side of the bed, and Graham took the opportunity to duck into the bathroom while his woman took the occasion to ogle his ass and that cocky, self-assured swagger. "Don't forget the new Explorer app we downloaded with your dinosaur book," he yelled before shutting the door behind him. "Okay. Mummy, do you know what you call an alligator in a vest?" Annabel pondered the question solemnly. I'm not sure. Maybe a fancy dresser?" "No, silly. An investigator. Get it?" Rory clapped her hands together and doubled over with laughter at her own joke, flashing her irresistible dimples. She definitely hit the mother lode with Rory, Annabel thought fondly, joining in her laughter. Oh, snap, not an investigator. That was a good one. Keep 'em coming, my little comedian. Daddy mentioned a new Explorer app? What kind did you get this time? A reptile one. I get to look at different snakes and lizards and turtles. I drew some pictures of them, but Daddy put them on the fridge. Annabel racked her brain, trying to remember if she'd seen them. Realizing that she hadn't even noticed her daughter's artwork disturbed her. Rory was a National Geographic enthusiast who loved animals as much as her mother. Whatever she drew, they always discussed the subject afterward, and then it was pinned with a ceremonial flourish on the fridge. How could she have missed this? Annabel fretted. "Can I have a red-bearded dragon, please, Mommy?" That particular species of lizard was generally docile and enjoyed being handled, Annabel recalled. A bonus to having one as a pet, it was diurnal and would sleep during the night. A minus was its speed factor. The reptile could run up to 25 miles an hour, and in the wild was known to actually run upright. Annabel didn't think Rory was old enough to handle that responsibility yet. She was already predicting having to chase down the lizard because her daughter thought it needed a cuddle and let it out. Nope. Nobody had time for that kind of madness. How about we consider a turtle when you can clean up your room without Mummy and Daddy telling you to? "Why can't I have it now?" Rory whined, lower lip trembling. "Because owning a pet is a very big responsibility and should be taken seriously. You have to pay attention to them, know how to care for your pet, and clean up any messes they've made. If you aren't ready to clean up after yourself yet, then we should wait a little longer." Rory squinted her eyes at Annabel and fixed her little mouth like she wanted to object. Her mother's arched eyebrow made her reconsider. Next, her eyes slid to the bathroom, and she smiled innocently, knowing her savior was on the other side. Seeing Rory's cunning, Annabel frowned. They both knew Graham was unable to deny his precious baby girl anything. "If you even think about asking Daddy for a pet after Mummy said no, Aurora Edith Gaines, Santa will put you straight at the top of the naughty list until you're 21, she sternly warned. Rory's eyes popped wide open, and her mouth clamped shut. She vigorously shook her head until her bonnet slid off. "No, thank you." Annabel kissed her button nose. Smart girl. Rory beamed, pleased with the praise, and not to be on that list. "You have to work late again today, Mommy?
Daddy said I get to go try on my dress again today. Are you going?
What dress? Annabelle asked, curious as she was the one to order or purchase Rory's wardrobe with her. She hadn't purchased anything in at least a month. Suddenly, it hit her. Rory's flower girl dress, for their wedding that was less than 2 months away, that she had yet to finalize her own dress fitting for, or done their menu and cake tasting. Crap. Annabelle buried her face in Rory's hair and noticed that it was newly washed and that Graham had freshly twisted it last night. Her eyes fell to the gorgeous ring on her left hand, and an avalanche of guilt landed on her shoulders. She'd been spending less and less time with her family lately, and things had been slipping through her fingers. Being the veterinarian for Cinnamon Farms was her dream job. She loved the sprawling hilly property and all the animals that occupied it. The farm was dreamy and picturesque, and Annabelle knew that, like his Uncle Walter before him, Max had turned down numerous offers from Hollywood requesting to use it as a film location. It was the place that she'd spent most of her youth and felt comfortable. Through her issues with her parents and abusive ex, the farm was where Annabelle prevailed and took shelter. The pristine work she'd done before leaving Baymoor had been consistently undermined by Davis and his father, her boss, Brenton. However, those days were over. This time, no one was in Annabelle's way to run things as she saw fit. But her family was her #1 priority. Presently, Annabelle felt like they were suffering due to her hectic schedule. Her violently psychotic ex would have corrected Annabelle's supposed shortcomings with physical and psychological abuse. However, her fiancé, in typical Graham fashion, had handled business and ensured things ran smoothly for them, per se. He was the prototype of a real man. That was the starkly drastic juxtaposition between Graham and Davis. One had an affluent, perfect life. The other had lived in abject poverty, using violence to protect himself and his siblings and keep the darkness at bay in order for them to maintain a decent life. Yet, it was the respected pillar of the community who had derived sadistic pleasure in using his fists and pummeling Annabelle every chance he got. "Of course, I'll be there, sweet girl," she promised. Graham exited the bathroom and scooped Rory into his arms and twirled her around, sending her into a fit of giggles.
Daddy, I'm still hungry,"
she gasped, struggling to catch her breath. He stopped and bussed her cheeks enthusiastically, then settled her on his back, koala bear style. "Okay, baby girl, let's go get you ready for the day and off to school." Graham glanced Annabelle's way. "Doc, you good with Ebelskeefers?" "No, thank you, babe." She reached for her phone on the nightstand. "I've got some calls to make. Afterward, I'll do her hair." "Nope. Afterward, get some more rest." Graham winked at her. "I got this." They left, and Annabelle heard Rory say,
"I want to wear the red and white polka dot dress, Daddy."
"I already ironed it last night, baby girl," he assured their daughter. "Yeah, I know you got it, Mr. Carlton." Annabelle exhaled loudly as she dialed and placed the phone to her ear. That's the problem. Graham and Rory sang at the top of their lungs as they exited the personal elevator. They were surprised to find his little sister, Georgina Carlton Hayes, leaning against her dark blue Audi, staring at them with a huge smile on her face. She was apparently waiting for them. Little bit looked good, Graham decided, a matching grin spreading across his own face. Her smile was genuine, and she was radiating some seriously happy vibes.
"Auntie Georgie!"
Rory shouted, waving at her. Straightening off the car, a beaming Georgina crouched with open arms for her niece, who ran straight into them.
"There's my pumpkin. Don't you look so pretty?"
Georgina picked Rory up and settled her on her hip.
"Was that Kirk Franklin's smile I heard?" "Uh-huh. It's my favorite."
"The way you sing it is making it my favorite too, Rory." She admired her niece's fresh twist-out, styled in a half-up, half-down do. "I like your hair. Who did it?"
"Daddy?"
Rory announced, pointing proudly at Graham.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?